So this question looks like a translate word problem question. So let's get straight to it. I'm going to show you how to use that process. Basically, it's just the idea of not reading the entire question all the way through, stopping at the end of each sentence to make sure we understood what we read, and definitely writing down any quantitative information. So the question says, for the finale of a TV show, viewers could use either social media or text message. Okay, so I'm going to say social, I'll just put M, and I'll just say TM for text message. Those are the two ways to vote. The contestant receiving more than 50% of the vote won. Okay, so we understand how that works. You got to get more than half the vote in order to win. I'm not going to write that down. An estimated 10% of the viewers voted. Okay, so that's important to know. So however many viewers there were, only 10% voted. So I'll write that down. So 10% vote. And 30% of the votes were cast on social media. All right, so 30% social media, which means that 70% were through text message, right? So I like to just read in between the lines as I'm reading these types of questions. So they may not ever tell you this information. Like, I don't think this question tells us 70% were through text message, but it must be 70%, right? If 30% of people who voted used social media, then the remaining 70% must have used text message because you only have those two options for voting. And then we have contestant 2 earned 70% of the votes cast using social media. Well, here's the problem. So we're obviously going to compare contestant 1 to contestant 2. I'll call it C2. The problem is we don't know how many viewers there were. We don't know how many voters there are. Everything is percent based. And it's really hard for our minds to start to compare things based upon percentages without having real values. So I'm going to use another strategy along with translate word problem called plug in your own number, because using that strategy here allows me to convert these percentages into actual values. So for instance, I'm going to say what? 1,000 people voted. Okay, so that's the 10%. So that means 10,000. There were 10,000 viewers, but the viewers don't matter as much because we're talking about votes here. So 1,000 people voted. So that means that 30% of that number, which is 300 were through social media. And that means 700 of those votes were through text message. So now let's see what the question says about contestant 2. Contestant 2 earned 70% of the votes cast using social media. Okay, well, we know that only 300 votes were cast using social media. So 70% of 300 is just 0.7 times 300, which we throw that into your calculator. That is equal to 210. So they got 210 votes from social media. And that would also tell me that contestant 1 received the other 30% of those votes, right? So 30% of the 300 is the remaining 90 votes, right? So out of the 300 people who voted using social media, 210 of them voted for contestant 2, and 90 of them voted for contestant 1. So what else do we have? 40% of the votes cast using a text message. So contestant 2 got 40% of the 700 votes that were cast using text message. So that's just 0.4 for 40% times 700. And that's going to be equal to 280. And that means that contestant 1 received the other 60%, right? The other side of that 40%. That gets us up to 100%. So 0.6 times 700, and that's equal to 420. So altogether, contestant 1 received 490 votes, right? Just adding these votes up. And contestant 2 received the remaining 510 votes. Again, it makes sense because 510 plus 490 is actually the 1,000 votes that we cared about. So here are real numbers now. So then the question goes on to say, based on this information, which of the following is an accurate conclusion? Well, we know for sure contestant 1 won, but there's some details here. So let's look at the answer choices. If all viewers had voted, contestant 2 would have won. Well, that's saying if all 10,000 people voted, that would have changed the outcome. Not really, because the percentages are what's causing the outcome here, not the number of voters. So choice A is gone. Choice B, viewers voting by social media were likely to be younger than viewers voting by text message. That's possible, but there's nothing in the question that confirms that that is in fact the case. So choice B is gone because there's no support for that answer. Choice C says if all viewers who voted had voted by social media instead of by text message, contestant 2 would have won. Well, that sounds good because contestant 1 did, or contestant 2, I'm sorry, did receive 70% of the text message votes. But I'm not sure if we took away this option and said all the people who are using text message for voting, you must use social media, then that probably would have changed the percentages, right? Because obviously then now these text message people are now forced into this category. So that would definitely change the percentages there. We shouldn't expect that contestant 2 would still get 70% of the votes. So choice C is gone. So choice D says viewers voting by social media were more likely to prefer contestant 2 than were viewers voting by text message. Now, I like that answer because that's what the data shows, right? So if you're a text message voter, you were more likely to vote for contestant 1, right? Because 60% versus 40%. But if you're a social media voter, you are more likely, like you preferred, to vote for contestant 2, 70% versus 30%. So that is a great answer here, especially given that all the other ones we proved were incorrect. So choice D is the best answer.